Hello, and welcome to our tutorial on library research for English 112, specifically for literary analysis. In this video, we'll be talking about the basics of literary research and what to expect as far as finding sources. Researching and finding sources for literary analysis is a little different than the process for an English 111 argumentative paper. When writing a literary analysis, you'll provide your interpretation of the work based largely on textual evidence, meaning evidence from within the work itself. However, you can strengthen your analysis by including outside sources that support the thesis or argument of your paper. For example, if you plan to argue that J.R.R. Tolkien's military service in the First World War influenced his writing of The Lord of the Rings, you should include sources outside the original books that can help prove your claim. This could include Tolkien's own letters, or biographies that talk about his enlistment, or scholarly literary criticism that discusses the connection between his service and his writing. Sometimes you'll find exactly what you need for literary criticism or biographical information on your author. This is more often the case when you're analyzing a well-known work or author. If you were researching Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, for instance, you would find many scholarly articles and books in your search results. Poe and his poem are well known enough that many scholars have written on both, though you'll still need to sort through the results to decide what will help support your paper's thesis. Maybe you've chosen an author or work that was published more recently or isn't as well known. When starting your research, you may find that there aren't many biographies or scholarly literary criticism available, if any at all. This doesn't mean that you need to pick a new subject. Instead, you can look for sources that discuss similar works, themes, genres, or topics, or sources that help provide context for when, where, and why your work was written. For example, maybe you were interested in exploring the theme of climate change in James Dashner's The Maze Runner, but you can't find much about the author or the book series in the catalog or databases. You may be discouraged and tempted to change topics, but there are still other kinds of sources that could help support your thesis. You could use works or literary criticisms on works that are very similar to the one that you've chosen, and draw out parallels between them. You could use sources that discuss your work's literary genre or the time period during which it was written to provide context to your author's writing. You could also use sources that discuss the same general theme or topic that you're analyzing within the work. Even if you can't find much criticism on your specific author or work, there are other alternative sources that can still support your thesis. Sometimes you'll find parts of an article or a book helpful, rather than the whole thing. Try not to focus on finding the perfect article or book that repeats the same argument you plan to make. It's more important to present your own voice and your own analysis. From there, you can incorporate sources into your paper to strengthen your unique argument. If you need any help in your research, always feel free to reach out to the library at ask@lfcc.libanswers.com.